The Alpha Sessions.
Hello and welcome to the Alpha Sessions. I'm Lucy Wroe, back with you again. And today we have the wonderful Louise Golbey. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you in because you have been on the show before, but not in the traditional studio setting as we are today. Or have you been on before?
I have, a couple of times, but I think, it's a new setup in here anyway, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. And you've played 3 wonderful tracks for us. And your new single. So we've had a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about. So first of all, for anyone who doesn't know you or hasn't come across you before, what would you describe your music as, or what do you want it to come across with?
So I've always called myself kind of UK soul, just because, my influences were kind of neo-soul artists like Jill Scott, D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, that kind of thing. 'Cause when I was growing up, I listened to quite a lot of R&B and hip-hop, my brother's influence, but also my mum's old Motown records and stuff like that. And I knew my voice was quite jazzy, so I think when I started writing, I was kind of jazzy but R&B, and then when Neo Soul came out, I felt like that was like a great sound because it's got like, really groovy bass lines and like big beats, fat beats, but also nice melodic and soulful melodies and harmonies and things on top. And so when I started writing and worked with the first producer I worked with, and he was from a neo soul and hip hop background, it kind of made sense. So I kind of stuck in that way. But over the years I've done a few house tracks, and I've done, my stuff is kind of a mix between soul and pop, I guess, but not really pop, but just more slightly commercial side rather than niche, I guess, but who knows.
The latest single I would like to talk about,
Thank you.
All For You, and it's a bit of a bop. It feels kind of summery, so it's good that it's come out just recently in August, and it's actually, I thought, a bit disco. I don't know how you feel about disco, but it's because it's got that dancey feel, but all the influences you were talking about. But tell me a bit more about how that song came into being.
Thank you. All For You only came out last week, and it's definitely a summer track, and we were hoping to like have it actually out a bit earlier for the summer, but it's only just, the weather's only just got good, so
there's still time.
I like to think summer lasts till October, but it's a collaboration with a producer that I've worked with for quite a few years. He now goes by the name of BHMN, like Bohemian, but
nice.
Kind of what do you call that? Like acronym abbreviation thing. But he was previously known as Invisible Soul Assassins, and I did a couple of tracks with him back in the day. He was like, "Do you want to work on some new stuff?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, because it's been a couple of years since my last album was out, so it'd be great to work with you." And he sent me a couple of instrumentals that he'd worked on, and this one in particular like stuck out to me, and so I like wrote the melody and lyrics on top, and developed like the sections with him, and we then co-produced it together and decided on the instrumentation. We got a horn player in to add some horns and live bass. So there's it was nice to kind of develop the track, but the actual beat and vibe of it is pretty much how he's sent me. I just really liked it, so I didn't want to change too much. But it's funny you say disco, because it's weird, because for me it's an upbeat song, but it's actually, it's not that fast, but it's just,
it moves.
Because it moves, yeah,
it moves.
So, but the actual melody on top, especially the verse, kind of floats on top. It's not too. So yeah, I tried it acoustically the other day actually, and it still works. So that's good, because sometimes with songs, when you must know, but it's a produced version isn't always the same as a live version, and I like to think, if a song can work just with a guitar and voice, then it's all right. Whereas if it feels like it's lacking,
it should support itself. It should be its own foundations, and then everything else is more like the extra, the bonus content in a way.
Exactly, but the actual instrumentation, it's not a particularly complicated song musically. Like, it's pretty much 2 chords, but it doesn't feel like that when you hear it on the produced version. So that's why I was worried that the guitar version would sound a bit bare, but I think it works. I hope it works.
It works. Do you feel like it's more important that the songs, you say it's 2 chords, but that's there are a lot of songs out there, some of the best songs that are, the first one that comes to mind is Fleetwood Mac's Dreams. It just goes between 2 chords the whole time. But somehow it's kind of unstoppable. Like the whole way through, it just sort of evolves.
Yeah.
So how, when you're making something, are you very aware of the harmony and trying to make it more interesting, or do you always think, no, it is how it is, and then everything else is all the melodies, and that's what comes in? And when you're constructing something, how does it sort of pan out in your head?
Well, I guess each song's different. Like, you know, a couple of the songs are ones that actually just came from me, like bashing out some really simple chords on the piano and then kind of coming up with stuff on top. But I'm not a very good piano player, so I never feel like I can give it anything interesting. It's just very basic chords. So, but then when it comes to like working with producers, whether it be they give me an instrumental first or we kind of develop something together, I think because I'm working on an album, I don't want all the songs to just be 2 chords kind of thing. So there are more musically interesting songs on the album. Like Lost Nor Found, I wrote with a musician, songwriter called James Chappell, who I've worked with for years. And that one we just wrote together from scratch. He had his guitar, he was playing around with a bit, and I was like, well, that's nice. What if you go to that chord? And that one's very much like the verse, bridge, chorus, and I just try and vary what is on. If it's part of an album, I'd say because I just and I just feel like I know that I'm capable and my musicians and producers are capable of doing something a bit more clever, but you still, obviously there's that element of something being catchy. And I mean, most songs in the charts are probably just the same chords the whole way through. They just make you think that it's different because there's more instruments in the chorus or whatever, or
about being clever with it, kind of taking what you have and just tweaking it a bit.
Exactly.
As for working with other people, I always find this quite interesting, because did you start off straight away early in your career working with producers and other writers, or were you very much sort of an independent creator but then over time evolved to work with other people, or have you always worked with producers and writers?
I'd say I got producers involved quite quickly, but my first songs I wrote on the piano, and I think when I decided I wanted to actually release music, I quickly kind of made contacts and got producers involved and worked with different producers over the years, which is nice. And actually my last album, there's a few different producers on it, and I was a bit worried that maybe the sound wouldn't be consistent, but I had it all mixed and mastered by the same people. But I think because I had already got a relatively distinctive sound, and I think my sound comes from my voice and the way I do harmonies and stuff and my style, all the producers that I've worked with know what I'm trying to aim at. But then like Animal, that was produced by Lyndon Grant, and that's a much more contemporary production, like R&B production.
I was going to pick up on that.
Yeah, but also like that's his style, and I didn't want to be like, oh, can you make it different? Because actually I love what he does and I wouldn't have worked with him. So I wanted to make sure he produced it as he'd want. And I think it works. I hope it works.
You're so mysterious. You wanna take control, but your mind's on hold. Oh no, you make me curious. When you put on your show, all I need to know is, do you think of me in the daylight? Am I on your mind with the sunrise? You're so mysterious. You push me to and fro, don't know where I'm going. You're an animal. You're an animal. You're an animal. The way you treat me, it's so original. The way you tease me when we get physical, I'm unpredictable. I love the way you treat me, 'cause you're an animal. You're an animal. You're an animal.
Alpha Sessions.
Animal, actually, if we touch on that production, because I wrote down here, like the instrumentation, if Peter Gabriel was a trap artist, but Alicia Keys was doing vocals. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it was the flutes. It was like, were there flutes in there? There was some kind of woodwind,
it's like
synthy
that kind
flute
of sounds. Yeah.
But all of that. So it was a really interesting mishmash, and it's quite a unique song, I think, because of that.
Thank you. Well, funnily enough, that song actually started as a house track that I was working on with this producer called Bertie. We did a session, and he was like, right, we're gonna, because he basically works in this kind of in the house world, and we wrote that song together. And I mean, I've probably got the original house version on my hard drive somewhere, and we couldn't then release it, I think, because he was then signed and couldn't do anything with the production. I said, well, I actually really like the song as like the melody and the lyrics. Like, I wouldn't mind using it and trying to do an R&B version. And he said, cool, like, you know, as long as, you know, he's credited as part of the writing and stuff. So then I took it to Lyndon and I was like, what do you think? He was like, yeah, I think it can work. So it's kind of weird to think how that song, and the thing is, it's quite a sexy lyric. So actually I think the R&B version works quite well.
Yeah.
So.
And that's from Renaissance,
the
album. We were talking about this a little bit before, but it came out 2022. Was that album? A couple of years ago now.
Yes, 2022.
And you played a couple of tracks from that today. So releasing an album, was that your first album? You've released something before. It was your second album as well. So what is the process like in today's industry specifically? Because it's kind of the world of singles and the world of the short attention span. And making an album is almost, it feels like it's a lost art form for a lot of independent artists, because it takes a lot more work and sometimes funding, depends how you want to go about it. But how was the process for you putting together a whole album? Like, what made you decide, I'm going to make an album rather than just doing singles?
Well, because I think I had enough songs, and it's actually, I find it quite exhausting releasing stuff and having to promote it. And so I kind of figured, well, people can listen to one song or they can listen to all 12 songs. I just think it's nice to have a collection of your work. And, you know, I still get CDs printed as well for merch. I'd love to do some vinyls as well, but I don't know if there's demand for it for my stuff, unfortunately, but, you know, it'd be great to. And yeah, I mean, it is obviously more work, but each single's the same amount of work. So in a way, it's kind of like this is All For You is like the first single, and I'll probably then release another one and then maybe the whole album, because I mean, it depends. I've still got quite a bit to work on with it. But I have released some like individual singles over the years and a couple of EPs. My first album was, I think, like 2015. And that one I mainly worked with Drew Hawley, the producer I mentioned that I worked with from the beginning. And I've got like Omar, who's a UK soul legend. He's on that album. And it was a mixture of some songs that I'd previously recorded, but I re-recorded, and some new songs. And it felt like, this is good. Like and I called it Novel because it was like my full body of work kind of thing. And yeah, and then I released a couple of EPs in the meantime, and then singles, and then I just was ready, I think. And it's been a couple of years since that album, and I was just itching to kind of write again. Had some songs bubbling under, and yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it's the right decision. It's hard to know as an independent artist. I am looking at potentially trying to do an Indiegogo campaign, which I did for my first album, but I don't know how. That was obviously quite a while ago now, and I don't know whether it will have as much impact, kind of thing. But the idea is like people can then pre-order a copy, and it helps towards the funding, which I think is a great idea, and it also makes people aware of it before. But I just don't know whether people would either pre-order a CD or a digital version. But anyway, I need to work that out. That's on my list of things to do.
Do you feel like the sort of making of material music, like making CDs and merchandise in general, because is it sort of a lost thing now? Do people make CDs and and vinyl, you want to make records and stuff, because records had a big boom, big revival.
Yeah.
But it still feels like somehow they're not important to people in
Yeah,
upcoming generations.
Yeah, I mean, the vinyl thing's been back for a good few years now. And I think if I thought I'd be able to definitely sell them, I'd definitely get them, because it's so nice having a record, you know. And so I went for CDs because it is still nice having physical, especially when it's an album and you've got, you know, we're talking about the liner notes, you've got all the credits and everything. It's just nice to have, you know, and actually Lyndon, who I mentioned earlier, he said to me, I'm so glad you got CDs, it's so nice. And he's got it up in his house, you know, like, it's just a nice thing. And yeah, I mean, some gigs I sell loads, some I don't sell any. Depends on the age of the crowd, depends on the venue, depends on price of drinks, you know. Sometimes people don't want to, but essentially it's good to have. It's better to have them than not. But yeah, and I always say they make really good coasters otherwise. So or
they
frisbees.
Have many uses. Frisbees, yeah,
musical frisbees.
Yeah,
They might hurt someone.
Yeah, they used to put them on strings and hang them in trees when I was at school and make ornaments out of them. But anyway, we're not saying buy Louise's album and make ornaments out of them.
Well, no, buy it. You can do what you want with it, to be fair.
I mean, well, fine. Okay, we are saying that. We are saying go and buy Louise Golbey's album. But yeah,
I've still got a box of CDs I need to shift, so yes, please buy it.
Please buy the album and do with it what you will. Create something entirely new, but be sure to tag Louise in any post that you make about the album.
Strange times are leading to a massive divide. Fallouts and bailouts, I am on the decline. The world stops spinning and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. Oh no. Friends with opinions and no science and facts. Livelihoods are ruined and there's no going back. Do what's right for you, they say, but they're judging me all of the time. Maybe I'm in denial, but I don't feel so good right now. I'm waiting for you just to make it alright. Sweep me off my feet and help me fight the good fight. We're all in this together, but I can't see the light. Oh no. Oh no. Roller coasting through it all, I'm feeling so weak. If things carry on, then
Alpha Sessions.
I wanted to talk more about, you touched on playing live and selling CDs live and playing gigs, because you've played live a lot and you regularly play live. You're always out there, out and about. But how is the scene, the London scene? How long have you been on the London gig circuit, and what is it like out there for artists who are sort of up and coming? What would be your first port of call for advice?
Advice is do as many gigs as possible, because the only way you build your stagecraft and live, like, I know obviously writing and production and all that stuff is important, and online presence, but I mean, for me, I still get an absolute buzz out of performing. So, and it's not everyone's thing, but I think if you are going to be a musician and there's a demand to see you live, you need to like work that craft. And, you know, I mean, in London, I mean, you could gig every night of the week if you wanted. Yeah. Obviously, there's ones that are like better than others. There's better venues. There's ones where the promoters do the promoting. There's ones where you're reliant on bringing people. There's so many different, and it's really hard to kind of know the good ones and the bad ones. And I think if I'd have known someone beforehand, I could have cut out a lot of the bad venues or whatever. Or the thing is, though, if you do a gig and actually the sound is bad or whatever, you learn from that. You know, like you almost need to have those bad experiences to know how to handle them, and you know, make yourself better performer. And you know, if it's live, what do you do? Like, you just have to kind of wing it or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's tough. It is tough. And but yeah, I don't know. And like I was saying earlier, like, it's nice to hear how your songs would sound live. You don't, unless you're using backing tracks and stuff, it gives it a different element to the song, doesn't it?
True. Sometimes you sort of reveal things about the song that you didn't even know were in there as well, or the way you sing it live you forget isn't the original, and then you listen to the original, oh yeah, that's not how it goes at all. But they just develop in a way. Do you often find that when you're playing live a lot, you've actually got more energy to write as well? Like, you've got more stuff to inspire you if you're out there, or do you need that break to have a time to write, and you take a break from playing live? Does it all sort of happen all at once?
Really depends, because I've been trying to promote the current album quite a lot, so I have been trying to consistently gig, but always knew that I was writing in the background. But yeah, I don't know really, but definitely you do need things to happen to inspire you to write. I find, because I've always pretty much written from experience rather than, you know, not guessing, like, what's the word? Theorising, or written about other people's situations or whatever. I did when I host this podcast called the Songwriters Podcast.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if you're going to mention it, but I interviewed Don Black for it, and he's a lyricist, and he's in his 80s now. He wrote the lyrics for 5 of the James Bond themes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think like 6 Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, stuff like in the 60s for pop artists and stuff. And he's from a different era of songwriting. And he finds it, he kind of was like, well, I don't get it. Like, back in my day, we were writing for other people. Like, it's all about imagination. And he kind of was like, artists nowadays don't seem to have don't have the imagination, but it's just not quite the same, because they're writing for themselves. It's kind of like a different way of... True. But it wasn't a critique. I think he was just kind of
It was an observation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Really interesting, because like... Yeah.
It is kind of true, though. I think somebody was talking to me the other day about how there aren't a lot of bands in the top of the charts, or you know, in the singles. Anyone that's up top at the moment is like, there's a lot of women, a lot of solo female artists, and... It is a good point that I feel like everyone's very individual now, and that could be perceived as a great thing. Like, everybody's got their own spirit, and they want to encourage the confidence to write about your own experiences, and everyone relates to that as well.
Yeah.
But it does feel like everyone's a very individual because of social media. Everyone can be a celebrity now.
Exactly. Yeah. But you still get, obviously, with big acts on big labels, there are teams of writers and producers like involved. It's because at the end of the day, like, if there's the budget and audience, then they can get the best songwriters in the world and make sure they're always going to be hits and all that stuff. But it's nice when you get individuals that actually are telling their own story and don't have too many other people involved in that side of things.
Yeah. And it is important because, like I was saying, people do relate to it. And I want to touch on that with Lost Nor Found, because that one felt the most personal. I don't know if it is, but that's why I find it interesting, because when I was listening to you perform, that's the one that I related to. And then I thought, that sounds the most personal, but it's the one that I relate to the most. So is it because it's most personal for you, maybe? Is it the most personal one?
Yeah, I mean,
in the way that you performed today?
Definitely a personal song. All of that album is, and that was, I was in a long-term relationship and then we broke up and obviously had to move out, and it was just about, oh, now what? Like, you know, I was in a stable situation and now I've got to like find someone to live again. Do I live in a house share again? I don't want to do that, you know, and all this stuff. And it's just like, it's so weird, but maybe it could be exciting. Like, what's next? What, you know, that's why it's kind of a sad song, but also slightly hopeful. But yeah, thank you. That's great that you kind of related to it. That's nice. I try and it's weird, like when you write, because you want to write about your own stuff, but without it being too personal or too exclusive. Yeah. So you still need to kind of think about the way you, I mean, you don't have to, like some people are really, really personal, but I try and do that so it's not too niche.
Lost in a world where I have no future, I found myself starting over again. What I thought was for sure transpired to nothing. Dissipated anticipation and all the pain. Fresh start, new life, begin again and try. Fresh start, new life, leave the past behind. What now though? How will it go? No plans and no expectations. In limbo, between high and low, covering new ground, I'm neither lost nor found. Trapped in a world where I can't imagine what will be, but I'm free of the pressure that used to surround me. And what I'd grown used to no longer exists. Dissipated anticipation gone in our midst. Fresh start, new life, begin again and try. Fresh start, new life, leave the past behind. What now though? How will it go? No plans and no expectations. In limbo, between high and low, covering new ground, I'm neither lost nor found. Do 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 do. Fresh start, new life, begin again and try. Fresh start, new life, leave the past behind. between high and low, covering new ground. I'm neither lost nor found. What now though? How will it go? No plans and no expectations. In limbo between high and low, covering new ground. I'm neither lost nor found.
The Alpha Sessions.
It was a lovely song. It was more
Thank
jazzy.
you.
It just felt, it felt soft. Like Don't Feel Good as well. We haven't even talked about Don't Feel Good. And you mentioned when you were recording it that it was about the pandemic starting. So that must have been written like 4 years ago now, maybe
It
more.
was. So it was kind of in the summer of 2020. It was probably, maybe it was about April, May time, but basically it was just about, obviously as musicians we lost all our gigs, and it was such a weird time. So not only dealing with, are we all going to die, but what is my life? Why have I made these choices? Like my livelihood's like one of the worst affected right now. But also just that whole thing, like nobody knew what was going on and everyone seemed to have their own opinion. And it was kind of specifically about, so I have a residency at the Oxo Tower. So I do covers gigs there once a month. And in that time before the official lockdown, and everyone was talking about how why all the other countries locked down and everything's still open here, blah, blah, blah. I was getting gigs cancelled in advance, but my Oxo Tower gig still went ahead. This is before, I don't even know what date that the lockdown happened. And I was like, brilliant. A gig's happening, great. And I think I posted on Facebook just saying, oh, I'm so pleased my Oxo gig's actually happening, the one gig that's fine, like actually going ahead. And it was really funny because all my musician friends like commented going, great, good news, have a good gig and, all this stuff. And then a lot of my non-music friends were like, you shouldn't be going out. Why are you travelling on the tube? Why is the Oxo Tower even open? It should be shut, all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, like I've got to make a living. And it turned out, the tube was absolutely dead, because no one was going out and there was hardly anyone in the restaurant. So it was probably the safest place in London that night. Although I remember singing and I heard a cough in the distance and I went, oh, it freaked me out. But it was all about that, nobody knew really what was right or wrong, but everyone was quick to be like, oh, well, if you do this, and singing's dangerous because of this. And then the worst thing was, I think it was July the 4th, the pubs were able to reopen, but I still couldn't sing indoors for a living, in the corner of a restaurant away from people. But people were allowed to go in pubs, shout in each other's faces and be drunk, and they could play the background music really loud, so people were getting louder, and we still weren't allowed to perform indoors. And I think that was the moment that just really frustrated me.
And this song was born.
It was born
from frustration.
Anger. Sorry. Anyway.
No, it's good. The music you play today spans all the way from pre-pandemic, which doesn't feel that long ago, but 4 years has already gone by.
I know, but we still talk about it because it's the biggest thing that's happened in our lifetime, isn't it?
Yeah, especially for independent musicians, as you said. But also a lot of people started to sort of reinvent themselves and creating podcasts. A lot of people started podcasts, which is, I think, a great thing, because now everybody, like we're doing today, is talking about all of our experiences, and it's just another new community for musicians. But I did want to quickly talk about that, the podcast that you're running, because I think it's a really cool idea. And you've already mentioned Don, but what's the stuff coming up for that? Are you do episodes every month, or?
No, so we do it in series. It started actually just before the pandemic. We did the very first episode in real life. Oh, wow. And then we realised actually we could carry it on and do it remotely. Yeah. But the idea is, it's called the Songwriters Podcast, and we're in association with the Ivors Academy, Ivan Novello's, and PRS for Music, M Magazine. Amazing. They're kind of like our associates. And the idea is I'm interviewing top songwriters in the UK who you might not know their name, but you'll definitely know the songs they've written. So it's highlighting songwriting and songwriters. And we've had some great guests, and we're about to start doing series 4. And I've already interviewed Fraser T. Smith for it, and he's incredible. I mean, he co-wrote Adele's Set Fire to the Rain, and then he produced and co-wrote 2 of Stormzy's albums. He's done pop, and he's done grime, and he's done all sorts. And he's probably one of the most prolific people, and he's been on our wish list for ages. So and it's just it's one of those things that started off as a little idea, and then we've carried on. So
it must be really cool for you as well, though, to be able to talk to all these people and then just have them in your network as well.
Yeah.
Like, now you just know each other, which is
Best
also
buds.
handy.
I wish. No,
Yeah.
I mean, actually, though, having said that, we had Rob Davis on the first series, and he co-wrote Can't Get You Out of My Head
Classic.
for Kylie with Kathy Dennis, and a few other massive songs in the early 2000s. And we've done some writing together. So actually,
amazing.
I wouldn't have met him if it wasn't for the podcast. So actually, you're right. There you go.
Well, it sounds like there are great things coming. And you mentioned very briefly that you're working on a new album.
A new one.
So we've got a lot to look forward to.
Thank you.
But it's been great having you on the show. And for anyone who wants to look you up after the show, what should they search for?
It's Louise Golbey, spelled Golbey. And that's just, I'm on Instagram as Louise Golbey, YouTube, this Louise Golbey channel, Twitter, and all the things. And all my music's online. And the new single is out now, just on digital format. It's called All For You. And the album's going to be called On With The Show. Because it's kind of a bit like, well, there's a song on one of the songs is called On With The Show, and it's kind of me talking about my career and how I've just carried on, and it's so easy to think, what is it you want to achieve from music? Should I be giving up, or should I, what's motivating me to carry on? So I thought it was quite a good roundup, and like, it's my 3rd album, and I'm still doing it On With The Show. So
well, you must be doing something right. But
thank you.
It's been great to have you on the show. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Lucy.
song is